Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Jamie Sekou. I am the CEO and founder of Psychable. And I'm so happy and incredibly honored to be here today with the incredible Elisa Marshall. Some of you watching may have already registered for our in-person gathering in Miami called the Quiet Burnout on January 25th. And for those who are just discovering us, this is an incredible event created specifically for mothers. All to say is that we're so honored and delighted to have Elisa as part of our host committee for this event and excited for today's conversation. Elisa is someone who deeply embodies motherhood at its fullest sense. Along with her husband, Benjamin Sormonte, Elisa is the co-founder of Maman, a French cafe staple throughout New York, Miami, and many, many other cities throughout the United States. And when you step into a Maman, it's just beautiful and awe-inspiring. And the most exciting news is that she recently collaborated with Martha Stewart, bringing rotating menus for all the different seasons to Maman locations. And so today we are going to touch on motherhood, burnout, nourishment, being a leader, and what it actually feels like to be in this season of life. So welcome, Elisa. Thank you for being here and for supporting the Quiet Burnout event for our mothers. For those of us that are new here, can you first share with us a little about your journey that brought you to this moment?
Absolutely. So lovely to be here, and thank you so much for having me. So a little bit of background about myself. I started Mama 11 years ago back in Soho. It was really a passion project. It was really born out of my love to want to do a multitude of things and never really finding that job that kind of checked all the boxes and fulfilled all of my passions. So when looking, I really knew I had to create it. So I selfishly created this world for myself filled with all of the things that I love and allowed me to do all the things that I loved with my now husband. And so Maman, for those of you who don't know, means mother in French. So very fitting for this conversation and this phase of life that I'm in and much of the audience who are listening. And it's been really great to see something that I built alongside my husband, inspired from my mother, and how it's grown over the past 11 years from one location to now 53 locations, and how it's changed me in so many ways, and how I've adapted being a mother myself.
Yeah. I I'm just so struck, right? Because you've grown this incredible business from one shop to now 53, right? And along the way, you became a mother, right? And as you know, motherhood changes everything.
Mhm.
And even the most successful women don't escape it. How was becoming a mother? How has it reshaped you, your life, work, and how you move through the world?
We could talk for hours about this. I think
Oh,
that
can
there's so many ways, but when I'm asked this question,
mm,
the first thing that comes to my mind is it's really made me more intentional. And I think it really allowed me to focus on different things, appreciate time more. Time kind of became the most important thing in my life that I now had to juggle in a multitude of ways, when before it was just all focused primarily on work and my husband. And I think, becoming intentional in so many ways, where my energy goes, where my effort goes, what really matters, saying no to things as well, when I was always saying yes to things. So just, becoming more intentional with my everyday actions, with the choices that I make, and most importantly with my time, that where I'm putting it, where I'm dividing it.
hmm Is there like a filter that you have in place to get to a yes or to a no? I'm curious what that is for you.
I wish it was as black and white and it was as simple as that. I think it's really just looking at each situation and really questioning, is this the best value of my time? I could sit in bed all day and scroll through Instagram, and I do sometimes catch myself doing that and, get drowned in this black hole of Instagram or Pinterest and making these boards for like my Easter table setting that I'm planning. I'm like, okay, no, this is not what I need to do. And you kind of, stop yourself and you have to backtrack and you have to, rethink on what you're doing. And I find myself, trying to do a million things in one day, and really kind of prioritizing that to me has been the most important and has been the most helpful, and making sure what I'm doing makes a difference, whether it just be for me, because sometimes I do need that hour of creativity to refuel myself on Pinterest, or if it's for something actually functional for work, like getting to emails, just making sure what I'm doing is the best value of my time.
Beautiful. Was there a particular pinnacle moment for you where you realized that you couldn't mother, lead, and create the way you once did, and you really had like certain things had to change and things really had to evolve? Just curious if you could share with us, how you were able to manage and process through that moment.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And it's funny. I think the quiet burnout is something that keeps coming up. But for me, unfortunately, I had like a really loud, uproaring burnout. And unfortunately, just over a year ago, I had a lot of very serious health issues. And burnout came in a form that was, extreme, extreme illness for me. I had heart surgery actually a year ago today. So serendipitous that we're doing this. I think I was like in lying, having the surgery done as we're speaking. Today's the 1 year anniversary of a good, amazing bill of health for me.
Ooh,
Anyways, I didn't
congratulations.
want to go
Wow.
down that route, but I do think it's important for people to know, and I think burnout comes in many different forms for many different people, and for me, it was unfortunately physical. And I think leading into what I spoke to with regards to intentionality, it really helped me create priorities for my life, and it was a great wake up of like what really matters, and where do I want to put my time, and where do I want to put my efforts. And it really helped me kind of prioritize so much more and appreciate the people around me, appreciate spending time with my children, waking up and being able to put my children to bed, holding my children, because I wasn't able to do that for so long. And work wise, I was very fortunate to have an amazing team. I, of course, took many months off of work and had my team fill in my shoes while I was gone. So it really kind of left me with a fantastic opportunity coming back to work full time, saying, what do I want to do? Like my job was really ultimately taken over. My husband was trained on all the wife things that you could imagine. So I think in both a parenting standpoint and a work standpoint, I was out. I was in bed for 4 months, not doing much.
Wow.
So I really had the luxury of kind of, waking up, pardon the pun, coming back and saying, what do I want to do? How do I want to spend my time? And I think looking at, my family, my children, obviously that being a huge priority, but of course, work is still a priority for me as well. And it's something that I am so passionate about. It's, a business that I created, that I built, that I genuinely love. And so it really allowed me to kind of reform and recreate a job description for myself where I am now doing what I love to do, and I'm doing what I'm really good at, as opposed to, putting out fires and getting drowned in emails and doing so much and just getting bombarded with everything, which led me to burnout. It really sparked and brought back a lot of the joy
Mm.
in motherhood and professionally.
hmm I think underneath the layers, as I'm listening to you, what comes up for me is this immense sense of trust
Mhm.
trust in the people, trust in your team, trust in your household, trust in your husband. I mean, that's a lot of trust that you had
Yeah,
to
that's
cultivate.
true. Yeah.
And so how did you do that? Like, I mean, you had the trust, but then how do you then find the people to then have the support system to then fill in those gaps where you were at one point probably everything to everyone and
Mhm.
everything around you? How did you do that?
Yeah. I think it came over time, and I think there were definitely some people who I couldn't trust and I didn't trust. And I think those kind of situations really help bring out many different colors in the people surrounding you. And it was really amazing and really an eye-opening time to kind of let go, because that was another thing that I had to do. Sometimes I found myself in bed and not able to move and bored, and I couldn't watch any more Netflix, and I was started working, and it was the acceptance of myself that it's okay for other people to do this. And I think that that was probably one of the hardest things, was allowing other people to do things, knowing that it wouldn't be done necessarily exactly how I would have done it, but it's still going to be done maybe 90%, and that's okay. My husband's
Mm,
not going to pack the lunch boxes and exactly how I would have packed them in the morning, but you know what? They're going to get packed and they're going to get great food and it's going to be fine. And I think it was the acceptance of that that
mm.
really helped allow me to trust other people, to kind of take over what I was doing. And then also um, letting go of those walls that you put up and asking for help, because I really was in a position where I needed it. I really desperately needed it. And
Mm,
I
mhm,
couldn't be Superwoman anymore. And I was
mhm.
very vulnerable. And I had to lean on the people surrounding me because that's all I had.
Wow, there's so many layers there on so many levels. Um, I'm so struck by those word acceptance.
Mhm.
And how does one get from, oh, I'm like tearing up here. How does one get from, just like feeling like you have to control everything to then like relinquish and let go? And I mean, through a deep collapse. And how do you go from like 0 to 1 of acceptance, like, and actually accepting it and actually receiving it? Like, what was your process like around that? Could you maybe expand a little bit more around it?
It's a great question. And I really, I wish there was more of a formal process for it.
Mm,
Uh, I think there were times when there wasn't any other option, right? Like I
mm,
think the acceptance was, it was either I accepted help and I had help, or it wasn't going to get done. So it was
mm,
almost like a desperation, maybe, because
mm,
I
mm,
had to. Um,
mhm,
but I for myself, the process of accepting that really came from, I think it goes back to the word trust, like you mentioned. I think it was a combination of those two. It was trusting those around me and knowing that people had the best intentions. My family had the best intentions for my children, for my well-being. My husband, who's also my business partner, had the best intentions for the business. My amazing team, who I have at work, also had the best intentions. So I think it was a combination of trust that really brought on the acceptance.
beautiful. And also what I'm hearing is at some point, like just getting out of your own way, right?
Yes.
Getting out of your own
Yeah.
way and then just allowing. Wow, beautiful.
Mhm.
We have a lot of mothers here who are also entrepreneurs like yourself. You started Maman as a single shop, and it was
Mhm.
in
New
New
York
York?
and Soho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And today you've grown it to like such a beloved brand, with over 53 locations across the United States. I mean, that's so incredible. I mean, there's so many, the whole like coffee shop idea is just, it feels like such an inundated space. You didn't have to do all that, all while navigating motherhood. You are
Halfway through,
truly like
I
unicorn. I'm,
halfway
like,
through.
Was that your intention? I guess also, can you walk us through some of just the key steps you took from even like mentally and also business wise to go from one location to building this operational, scalable business while also maintaining the quality, the soul, which I see you still so alive in it, and
Yeah.
just that consistency with the Maman brand. What did it really take behind the scenes?
Mm. Yeah, that's so much. I think so much of it early on was led so much by heart. And I am such a feeling person. I'm a creative. Am so thankful, for my husband in a multitude of ways and my business partner because everything that I suck at, he is really good at. So I'm very lucky to have had that balance.
Mhm.
And to really like know what I'm not good at. I often say like we would have closed down in the first week if I had anything to do with the finances, with the money. I'm like, I am not a math person. I'm not an accounting person. Like that is his area of strength. So I think really finding that like yin to your yang, business wise and parenting, is something that's super important to kind of really help and grow. But ultimately, since day one, building Maman to me was so much more than creating a cafe and creating food. I'm like, I really, and I still to this day, my goal is to create a feeling. My goal is to prior to a brand, prior to a coffee shop and a brunch place. I'm like, I strive to create a feeling that is just something that's multisensory, that gets inside of you the second that you walk into the door, and that you feel before you taste, you feel before you see, before you smell. And I really put a lot of my efforts, and now, the job description that I've created for myself really allows me to put emphasis on that and
Mhm.
building the brand. And, I think that's one thing that I can really attribute so much of our success to is the emphasis on why do people come to Mama? And, in the city like Miami and like New York, anywhere, there's fantastic food here. There's fantastic coffee. I always say I can name you 5 places within, a 5-minute walk or drive of any of our locations with great food, great coffee.
Mhm.
That's not enough these days. And I think especially post COVID, it's a very competitive environment. And we're in, amazing, diverse cities where
Mhm.
that is easy to find. So my emphasis is so much more on the what more and the what else and the surrounding of that. And so I want people to come in and I want it to spark a feeling inside of them. I want them to see a plate and have, a little bit of nostalgia and have it remind them of the plates that their grandmother used to have in their kitchen. To eat a cookie that is reminiscent of something that their aunt used to make on Christmas, and drinking a coffee and that feeling of warmth when you hold it in your hand. The beauty that surrounds you is one huge thing for me, and how the environment and the surrounding beauty and the attention to detail really makes you feel. So for me, it's so much about leading with heart, and I think that goes into
Mhm.
so much into intuition, so much into our hiring process as well, and bringing on new team members. It's like sometimes you meet people and they are just the most qualified, amazing, check all the boxes, and it's just you don't have that feeling. And I
Mhm.
think that's something we've done, and we've been very fortunate to be selfish in this process and really create this little oasis, filling a void that we both had. And now we're so fortunate to be able to share it and to learn that it's something that other people are craving too.
Mm. I love that you said, leading with heart because even even stepping into my mom, not even going into it yet, you could just feel it radiating out of that shop, right? It's just like, it's just so radiating. And you walk in and it's just you just feel like this warm hug. You feel like you're just like at home. And then everywhere you look, every corner you look, every, display you look like, it just creates so much delight in the eyes and
Amazing.
in the body and the heart. I mean, at
Hey,
least
I did my
personally
job.
for
I'm
me.
so happy.
Yes.
Like it's working, it's working.
Yes. Yes. What,
Like
so,
I thought it was just me, but other people see it too.
oh, yes, absolutely. Hands down. Where do you get the inspiration behind more, 'Cause this is what you're always thinking about it, but it's like, where do you draw from?
So many places. I think we're very fortunate. We get to travel a lot. So within all of our travels, we're always picking up bits and pieces of inspiration. We're huge foodies. So we're always trying, best restaurants, new places. Primarily when we travel, though, if you ask for like local recommendations, we're always cooking at home most often. But I think traveling, getting out, seeing the world, I rely so much on Instagram and Pinterest. And I think that there's just such a, there's so much out there and keeping your eyes open and, being open to new ideas, I think is one thing. I think a lot of people are very narrow-minded and sheltered in their ways, but I think, being
Mm.
open to change, being open to new ideas. Maman started just as, a to-go concept. And we were like, no, we're going to be Southern French food. And we, wanted to only have a certain style of cuisine. And we weren't even going to have croissants at the beginning. I'm like, I don't want to become like a cheesy cliche bistro. And everyone, from a customer standpoint, everyone started asking for it. Everyone had different opinions on what we should have, and listening to the customers, listening to, to the surrounding environments around us. So inspiration is really pulled in so many different ways, and competition as well. I have to admit, like there's a lot of great ideas out there. A lot of people are doing so many fantastic things. I don't believe in copying people, but definitely drawing inspiration from what others are doing is important.
Hmm. Well, also understanding you can't be everything for everyone, right? So, I mean, it sounds to me through a lot of A/B testing, a lot of trial and error, a lot of tuning into your end consumers or your clientele, how do you then like hone in on who your audience is and who you're actually creating this environment for?
I know, and that's tough because we're constantly having that conversation, especially when it comes to food and culinary preferences. I just had this conversation yesterday, actually, and they're like, "Oh, but you need a healthier salad, and your salads have too much dressings." But then you're like, "Oh, but then like there's not enough dressing, and we need more indulgent food." And so it's the kind of thing that when it comes to food, it's and coffee, it's so personal. It's like you can't please
Hmm.
everyone. And there are going to be people who will come in holding, another cup of coffee from another place because that's the coffee that they love, and that's okay. And vice versa. You're going to come grab a drink at Maman, you're going to go somewhere else for food, and sure, so be it. And I think that we have to really accept that we can't be everything for everyone, kind of like go down the main road. But what we've really had to kind of like adapt ourselves, and where we have changed is just not being so rigid and set in our ways in terms of our offerings, and kind of exploring new menu items and new things that are kind of alterations without hurting the integrity of our brand. I think the whole wellness and health movement, I think that so many people perceive Mama as like a bakery and a cafe, and it's very indulgent, and all of the food is very heavy, and it's like not necessarily like the healthiest of food. And since day one, we have such a broad, wide menu range, and part of the reason of
Mm.
why we call it Mama is we really like to draw inspiration from a culinary standpoint of how I'm sure many of you moms out there feed your children, and how our moms fed us. And it's like,
Yeah.
if you eat your
Mhm.
dinner and your vegetables and you have a nice balanced diet, yes, you can have your cookie for dessert. So for me, it's really about balance. And it's like we do have the great salads, high protein, gluten-free offerings, like super healthy, whichever direction you want to go. But then, yes, there is also a sweet little indulgent treat for you as well. So for us, it's, about having a nice balance when it comes to our menu and really allowing there to be something for everyone without going too far overboard, and not being true to who we are. But vegan offerings, having gluten-free bread and introducing that on our menu really helped to open up a new category of customers for us who we didn't have originally. So small little tweaks and alterations as we went from a culinary standpoint without really losing our values and our integrity.
So good. And I think another word that's coming through as I'm listening to you speak is this word clarity, like just being very clear. Because the more clear you are within yourself, your values, what you stand for, all of it just starts to radiate out into everything that you're touching, right?
Mhm.
Into your menus, into your brand. It literally just um, has a domino effect, right? So it sounds to me, the more clear we are, the more we are more in alignment in our lives.
Mhm.
That's beautiful. And so knowing what you know now, and after this huge health collapse, how do you now personally recognize when you're nearing burnout? And what are the tools and the resources, or yeah, just the things that just help restore you back so that you can get back in that place of alignment?
My kind of personal red flag is when start when things no longer bring joy to me and kind of start feeling like an obligation or a task. And I remember feeling pre-burnout so much of that. And it was like, okay, I have 1 hour, I have to bang out these emails, I have to hop on this call, I have to go do a conversation with this person because they want to raise, and then I have to go put out some fires over here, but then I have to spend 1 hour with my kids, and then when they're not looking, I'm going to be on my phone doing these emails, and everything felt like a task or like something I had to do or an obligation. And I am so fortunate I was able to create this world for myself and create this beautiful job of literally exactly what I dreamed of as a child in this world that could not be more me. For those of you who know me, that now I realize like this brings me joy and it better bring me joy or I don't want to do it anymore. So I think really making sure and taking the effort to like find the joy in those moments and making sure that I am loving what I'm doing, because I got to a point where I wasn't loving what I was doing anymore. And same thing on a parenting side. When it felt like an obligation, it's like, okay, now I have to take time out of my day to go and be with my kids. Now I have to, take them to swimming class. And, like I'm lucky to be able to do that. I'm so fortunate to have two beautiful, healthy boys. And I think it's really so much of the outlook that you have on it. And I love spending time with them. I love having the ability that I get to go and pick them up from school every day. It's not a task for me. So I think
Mm.
that mental shift for myself has been so important to really, find the joy in the things that used to feel like tasks. And then my red flag is, when it doesn't seem like it's joyful anymore, or when it literally looks like, a line item on my calendar. That's when, I have to red flag myself and reassess.
Mm. So what do you do? I mean, you can't just drop the thing, right? You can't just like say, "Oh, I'm not doing that today." But do you just try to figure out who is the person that you can delegate it to? I mean, how do you kind of, you know, I guess like bring someone in to substitute for the thing that doesn't bring you joy anymore?
Totally. And I must admit, I'm not like living the dream and everything I do every day makes me super happy. I'm still, sitting down doing these horrible spreadsheets and emails sometimes, which I obviously don't love doing. So speaking on, on a high level, there's many, mundane things. I don't know too many people who love doing laundry, but I still have to do it every day with two kids. But all to say, I think so much of it is your outlook on it, and it's finding the positivity in situations. And
Mm.
it's, if I'm seeing it as a task or if I'm seeing it as something negative or something I don't want to do, how do I look past that? How do I, see it as something positive? It's like, if I, get to fold and get to finish this laundry, then I'm able to do something that I love to do. So I think it's just what I tell myself
Mm.
about that task and how I kind of rephrase it to make it something that's more positive for me. If I finish this budgeting spreadsheet that I'm working on, then you know what, then my team is going to have the structure that they need to be able to go off and do this on their own. So then that'll alleviate me having to be doing it all the time for them. So much of it is rephrasing things to myself and turning maybe a negative situation into a positive, maybe a mundane task into something that has a more positive outcome in the end.
Beautiful, beautiful. With that said, it's a beautiful way to transition to our last question. For the mothers who are tuning in right now who feels quietly exhausted or feeling that quiet burnout, but really can't put their finger on it, what would you want her to hear right now?
I think finding what fuels you and really um, what is it that sparks you and what is it that lights you up and what is it that brings you the joy and trying to put so much more emphasis in that. And I see that it's something I practice on a daily basis, not meditation wise or journaling, but really just something that I just stop for 1 minute and recognize,
Mm.
and making sure that I'm doing what I love, and that I've built a world for me that I love. And, I'm in surroundings that I love. I'm with people that I love. I try and, get rid of all the negative people in my life, all the negative things in my life, and, create a beautiful world for myself, surrounded, by beauty and those who I love. And I know it's easier said than done, but I think it's so much to do with mindset and your personal outlook.
Beautiful. And really, what I'm also hearing is intentional and discernment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Just being so
Yeah, those are great
intentional
words.
in everything that you do and being so incredibly discerning, right? That sharpening of the sword of discernment in
Absolutely.
who you allow in your life and who you choose to be around and what environment you choose to be in and what content you choose to consume,
Right.
right? All of it. And really creating like you are the master of this world and you are the divine that you get to create
Yeah,
whatever it is that you want around you and create that loving environment for yourself.
most definitely.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
so powerful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time, your energy, your honesty, and your presence today. If you're a mother craving to be just held for a moment, to exhale, to be nourished, to feel genuinely supported. We invite you to join Elisa and an amazing group of like-minded mothers on January 25th. We're going to be hosting it at Mindspace in Wynwood for the Quiet Burnout, a gathering that we've truly curated with such intention and deep care. This experience is going to include a world-class breathwork journey led by a really well-known Miami local breathwork master, Eugene Gant, and myself as the co-facilitator. We're going to have a healthy seed oil-free lunch and a meaningful connection with women who truly get it. So if this interview has resonated with you and you're a mother who needs to find some time for herself, we love to welcome you. Please visit the link in our bio. Thank you again. Thank you for
Thank
joining us.
you.